This is the photograph we took from across the street.
So you've got yourself a new iPhone with an all new camera system, and wouldn't it be great if you could capture the best possible photos every single time? Well, this video is designed to help you do that. Anyway, let me show you what I'm talking about. The absolute first thing you need to do when you get a new iPhone in regards to camera is choose your photographic style. To do this, go to your settings, scroll down until you see the camera settings. Scroll down again and then you'll see this, photographic styles. By default, the tone is set to 0 and the warmth is set to 0. This is Apple's style of photography. However, you can choose from different styles that kind of mimic other devices such as the Google Pixel, for example, or the Samsung Galaxies. And if you like a bit more warmth to your photo, you could go for this style. Or if you like photos to be much cooler in temperature, you could go for this style. Once you set this, your phone will default to this photographic style for every single picture. So choose wisely and just remember how to get back here in case you don't like the style that you've picked. Tip number 2. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't realize that they can do with the iPhone is use the volume up button to snap a photo, but we can take this one step further. Check this out. Go back to your settings, scroll all the way down again till you find the camera settings. Go into that, and then here you'll see this option, use volume up for burst shots. Now when you're taking a photo, you can hold the volume up and you can snap a sequence of photos like a proper paparazzi. And check this out, I've set up a quick way to open the camera by tapping the Apple icon 3 times. And with this setting now enabled, I can snap photos incredibly quickly. And you can see when you open the photo up, in the top left corner you see burst photos, 28 photos taken. At the bottom here we can go to select and we can actually choose the best one out of the burst photos that we want to keep. And if you want to, you can keep everything. Now these next 2 tips are very important. I think a lot of people should use this more. Go back to your settings, go back to camera. Now scroll to the composition section of the camera settings and enable the grid and the level. So now you'll have these faint grid lines on your viewfinder. You'll also have the spirit level in the middle that will help you level up with the horizon. And if you use the intersection of the grid lines for focal points in whatever it is you're taking a photo of, for example, you could line that up with someone's eye. And if you're going by the rule of thirds, the human eye should naturally be drawn to that point in the photo. So definitely use these tools and you might begin to notice that your photography starts to improve. So with the new iPhones, the primary sensor size is bigger than ever and the megapixel count is 48. And this means that the camera can actually crop in on that sensor and deliver a better focal range without losing any quality. And there's a couple of ways to shift between these focal ranges. And there are actually 3 focal lengths that you can toggle between on the primary camera. Where it says 1x right now, if we tap that, it changes to 28mm. And if we tap it again, it changes to 35mm. And if we tap it again, it goes back to the original 24mm. All of which are very useful focal lengths. And here's another way you can adjust quickly between those focal lengths. If you hold your finger down and slide on the zoom section of the camera, you can adjust between all of the focal lengths. So even the ultra wide all the way up to the maximum zoom of 24x. Now let's say you really like the 28mm zoom or the 35mm zoom and you want that to be your main camera all the time, you can set that up. To do this, go into your settings once again, scroll all the way down again to your camera settings, scroll down again and you'll see this section here, main camera. So by default, it's always going to be 1x. If you like the other focal lengths, you can change them here. If you don't like those other focal lengths at all, you can actually switch them off permanently. So you'll only have the 1x. So it is kind of a feeling out process to see what suits your style of photography. It's entirely up to you if you want to set a different default lens or not. And if you don't worry, you now know how to switch between them quickly anyway. So there is a new feature on the iPhone's camera, and it is the ability to capture portrait photos even when you're not taking a portrait photo. And just to make sure that you can do this, check this setting, go to settings, come back to the camera menu here, and make sure this is switched on, portraits in photo mode. Now this will only work when you're shooting regular photos, so you can't shoot raw photos and you can't shoot HEIF Max or JPEG Max photos. It has to be the default camera mode for this to work. And this works with the rear camera and the selfie camera. And just make sure that the RAW in the top left corner has a line through it, meaning that it's not on. And when you're taking a photo, you'll know that it's captured the depth information. When you see the little F in the bottom right corner, you'll see it automatically adds that depth effect. But even when you take a photo without tapping that, you can go, oh Jesus, that's a terrible photo. You can go into that photo, and at the top here where it says portrait, if you tap that, you can add the blurry effect after the fact. And now I'm going to delete this horrible photo. So when I was speaking about RAW and HEIF and JPEG Max, you might be wondering, what the hell was I talking about? Well, let me explain that for you. Go back to your settings, go back to camera. Now, if you go to formats here, you have a bunch of different options. Now, by default, it's going to be set to high efficiency. So HEIF, this is very friendly on your storage on your device. However, if you're sending HEIF photos to someone on Windows, they might struggle to open them. I've experienced this several times sending photos to people who are not in the Apple ecosystem. And if they don't have the right software, they literally just can't open them. So if you find yourself running into that kind of problem with other people on Android or using Windows computers, you might be better off switching to a more compatible option. This will now save photos as regular JPEGs and videos in H.264. This format is more recognized across more devices. So let me show you very quickly how you can tell what mode you're currently in. When you go back to your camera, in the top right corner, you see I've now got JPEG Max. If I go back and change it to high efficiency, you'll see it's HEIF Max. So that's a quick way to tell which mode you're currently in. Now here in the formats, we can actually change the amount of megapixels per photo. By default, it's on 24, but if you want to save more space, you can change it to 12 megapixels. You will lose a little bit of quality, but it's not going to be massively noticeable to most people. And just below this, it does show you the difference in file sizes approximately. Now here below this, the Pro default is set to HEIF. However, if you change this to Pro RAW Max, you will get the maximum amount of image detail when taking a RAW photo. So if we go back to the camera mode, you'll see now it's changed to RAW Max. So when we enable this, we can take full 48 megapixel photos in RAW. So when you put them into post-editing software, for example, Lightroom, you'll have way more information to play with, and it will give you a lot more freedom to color grade and pull details out of it and things like that. So my advice to you, if you want to be real creative with your photos and you're not worried about the format being compatible with other people's devices, use this when you want to take the best possible images on your iPhone. Okay, now let's talk about video. Go back to your settings, scroll all the way down again, back to camera. I wish they put that setting somewhere near at the top. And here at the top are three things you need to look at: the record video section, the record slow-mo, and the record cinematic. So in the video recording, you can adjust the resolution and the frames per second. And the maximum resolution is 4K 60. It shows you down here what kind of file sizes you'll be dealing with if you adjust. My advice to you is to go 4K 30 by default. 4K 60 is going to be better for faster moving scenes. For example, if you're filming a football match or something like that. And 30 frames per second is the frame rate that's used most often. And it's also better in low light as well because it allows more lighting. Now, if all of this sounds very complicated, you should definitely do this. Scroll down and enable auto frames per second. Now this will allow your phone to decide, based on what you're filming, what frame rate will be better for your camera. So if you want better videos with less effort, you should definitely turn on auto 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. Now the next thing to look at is the slow-mo options. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max is now capable of shooting 240 frames per second in full HD. It's set to 1080, 120 frames by default. By switching this to 240 frames per second, you're going to get even slower slow-mo But just know, because it's capturing so many frames, it will make the scene darker. So this is going to work better in bright settings. If you find you're shooting slow-mo and it's too dark, you might want to switch it back to 120. But trust me, the results are going to look nicer here with 240 frames per second. Okay, the next video setting, the record cinematic. Now, if you're going to be recording cinematic stuff with the iPhone, you probably want to get the best possible quality, and by default it's on 1080, 30 frames per second. I recommend 40 at 30 frames per second. Once again, the file sizes will be larger, but the quality of the footage will be so much better. Now come back to your settings, come back to the camera settings, and there's one more thing you need to know about recording the best possible videos here on the iPhone. Just below the record settings we just looked at is the format section. If you scroll down here to the bottom in the video capture section, you'll notice this ProRes encoding. If you tap that, it's currently set to HDR, so high dynamic range. You can lower that to SDR, but if you want the absolute maximum amount of data in the video, so when you put it into an editing suite, you can really color grade things and really play with the video footage, you want to set this to log. Now, when you film in log, you'll end up with a flat color profile, and it'll be up to you to dial in the colors that you want. If you're a video creator or you're aspiring to be a content creator, shooting in log could be a game changer for you. So just be aware of where this is. Okay, so this next camera setting is not in the camera settings. This time we're going to go into the settings menu, we're going to go to general, and then here we're going to go to AirPlay and handoff. And at the bottom of this page, you'll see continuity camera. If you enable this, now your iPhone camera can be used as your webcam if you happen to have an Apple Mac. And trust me, the camera on your phone is going to be 100 times better than the one built into your screen. So definitely switch this on day one if you have an Apple Mac computer. And here's the last little trick, one you probably already know, but maybe you don't. You can create stickers from your photographs very easily. Just by holding down on part of the image, you can drag this around. And once you highlighted it, you can go to add sticker here. You could copy it and paste it into an iMessage. But I'm just going to go to add sticker. And once we add the sticker, we can add an effect to it as well if we want to, like an outline, comic style, puffy, shiny. So when you think about it, you can take a photo of pretty much anything you see and turn it instantly into a sticker using this method. And check this out, even the keyboard here can be a sticker if I want it to be. Okay, so you've made it this far and you've now leveled up your camera game. You're fast becoming an iPhone Jedi Master. But if you only knew the power of your iPhone, that's why part 3 of this 3-part series is about power saving on your new iPhone. And that thumbnail's on screen right now. So join me and together we can optimize your Apple iPhone's juice. Appreciate you guys for watching this one. See you in the next one. Don't be late.